All right, guys, welcome back to Crossman Productions. Guys, this has been such a just crazy week. It's been busy. We've had a lot of, awesome guests. We had Zach Arnold on this week. Yesterday, Puja and I went live and did an Instagram story talking about tonight's interview. Yesterday evening, I interviewed a new podcaster, Jen Stone. Awesome person. But tonight I have Bennett Yelin in, the co-writer of Dumb and Dumber. And I think this is probably one of the most anticipated shows that I've had in a while. So I'm really excited about it. And not only that, but I get to have, one of my friends, Puja, to come in and co-host it with me. So, I tell you guys all the time, I love doing this show, and I love the journey of the show because I get to meet so many just awesome people and get to work with so many, just cool individuals. So, be able to meet somebody like, Bennett and, even the guests we've had earlier this week, it's just awesome. To me, it's just a huge blessing. So, with that said, I'm going to bring in my special guest, Bennett, and my special co-host, Puja. How you guys doing today?
Good.
I'm terrific. And by the way, I had zero anxiety until your introduction. And now I am terrified to say anything. I'm
really excited about you being on. I tell you guys, I told my audience that Steve Joyner has just, connected with me.
Yeah.
And he's been introduced me to, a lot of the people that he knows. And he's been sending me some of the most awesome people. Yeah. And then, who would imagine that I'd be sitting here with, one of the co-writers of Dumb and Dumber?
Who would imagine that? I will tell you this, honestly. I've been a screenwriter since I think 86, 85 or 86. And when you're in particular, when you're a screenwriter, you rarely get any feedback. You just don't. You don't get feedback. You don't. It's not something common. And so to have anyone respond to anything I've been involved with and get some feedback and to find out it's beautiful. I mean, it's a very lovely thing, and I never take it for granted. I always appreciate it extra because it doesn't happen that often. Although it's been happening more since I've been doing podcasts and hear how people respond, and the bottom line is it really touches me because this is what I dreamed about doing as a kid. So to actually do what you wanted to do as a child and have people been able to touch people the way you want to do in a good way, but folks, is just, it's really lovely. It's very satisfying and makes me very grateful. Yeah.
Cool. Before we start, I wanted to tell you that when the movie Dumb and Dumber came out, I literally went about 3 or 4 times to the theater to see that film. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a movie I've went back and saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Not even since then?
Not even since then. So most of the time, if I see it in the theater, I'll wait until it comes on Netflix or whatever, on this streaming platform if I want to watch it again. But with Dumb and Dumber, I went and saw it. It was so funny. I went back with some friends. I went, I know, about 3 or 4 times to go see that. So it was just, it's crazy. And it's the only movie I've done it with.
Have you seen it since you saw it in the theater?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've watched that several times. And then, Dumb and Dumber 2, so, but yeah, that movie was it was hilarious. And I don't know. It's just something about that movie that it's just so genuine, and I don't know. I love the movie. So, but yeah. So
thank you. I'm going to say this too because it's another weird thing. Movies come, movies go.
Right.
It seems nowadays that movies come and go even faster because
right.
of streaming and everything like that. They don't stick around. But but there aren't a lot of movies that somehow stay in the zeitgeist and then become like cult movies. You can't do that. You can't make that happen. That's just something that happens somehow with time and people's affection for it. And movies like a Christmas Story and even Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I don't know how it happened, but Dumb and Dumber became one of those movies that with time became more and more embraced, and now coming up on 30 years later, that people just adore it, and it's in the zeitgeist, and it's quoted. How many times a month do you hear it quoted on a sports show or whatever? Well, we couldn't make it be a hit, but it was a hit. It was a hit because of a lot of things aligned, but we couldn't possibly make it the sort of affectionate movie that isn't that people, they grew up with it, they shared it with their kids, and that's just mind blowing to me that it's in that weird rarefied, and I don't mean to be like blowing my own horn because I didn't, other than co-writing it, I couldn't make it happen to be this cultural thing, but it's mind blowing to me that it's in that weird stratosphere of beloved. And a good thing too, because it's just a silly movie,
right?
That's what we need more of right now.
I think so too.
More of that to just lighten up and light up the world. Like we need more of that. I don't know if I'm seeing movies like that right now or yet quite. Do you know why? Like, I feel it's so unique from what I'm seeing now in comedy. Or would you disagree?
No. I think we need more of it. I actually saw Wonka a couple nights ago. The new prequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Timothée Chalamet. And when I was watching, I was like thinking, this is one of those movies that we just need more of these movies. We just need something that makes us happy and takes us away. When I was a kid, what I wanted to do as a little kid, I said, because I knew I loved movies, I grew up with them, I ate them. I mean, that's how I ate them, and that's how I learned to sort of think like a movie, because I would watch them on TV, I would go see them in the theaters, and they were like my bread and butter. And I said, I want to do that. I want to take people away. I want to give people something that will make them laugh and take them away from their problems. And that was my fantasy. I never thought that I'd end up doing it professionally, and so it's we need more of that. We do, and I can't tell you what, I don't want to be cynical. I think the business has changed a lot. The film television has changed a lot since I started, and there's no question that it's now run by people who are it's all about money, and it's run by very corporate people. So it's less about an experience and more about just pure making money. And I think that impacts what gets made. A lot of comic book movies. The emphasis now is on comic book movies and sequels to and spin-offs and all that stuff. And that's the more you emphasize how do we make money rather than what do we make to just be fun. Nobody ever goes. Nothing gets set up at a studio by, well, this will be fun for people. Let's greenlight it. No, not anymore.
Right. So, when you talk about that too, I think that Hollywood has become more agenda. Like they have an agenda that they're trying to push. You know what I mean? Whether
what's the agenda? What is the agenda? Money, just money?
Well, I don't think it's just money. I think that, a lot of movies are more serious now. They want to push, political and, just different ideologies and other beliefs. You know what I mean? And they've forgotten how to just do a movie that's just, there to entertain.
People want to have fun. That's what people
exactly.
want. They want to have a good time. They want to laugh. Barbie proved that. Yes. I think Barbie, not that we need to prove anything, but that's what joy. Right. That's what you feel.
And Barbie actually is quite a bit subversive because it's a funny, good time, but it has something. It has something to say, and a lot of people responded to what it had to say. which was.
I have a question about that. Parks, can I go ahead and ask?
That's right.
I feel that way about Dumb and Dumber, and I was curious if you were conscious of the messaging that you were embedding. That there's a lot of soul, love, and light throughout embedded in the comedy. Were you aware of that when you were doing it? Is that who you were then? Yeah, I would love to know more about that. I mean, it opens on Hope Street, and then when Jim Carrey's like, "Out with the bad, in with the good," or maybe I'm reversing that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
These ideas feel like a candy-coated vitamin. Is that something you're aware of when you read it?
I love that it doesn't. It's just not just a theory, but it makes complete sense. What you just said, even those few examples you gave are great. I will say that I don't think it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional on our part when we were writing it. But you don't know how much is subconscious as well, and that bubbles up and comes out in other ways. It's there. It's in the movie. I mean, Pete and Bobby shot it, and it's there. So it's not like if it wasn't there, you wouldn't be saying any of those things. So I don't think it's crazy or ridiculous to interpret it in other ways. But I will admit that our intention was just to be funny and make these guys lovable. We wanted these guys to be two friends who, although they backstab each other, love each other. And in fact, the very much a template for Dumb was and I don't hear this mentioned much at all, if ever. The Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, the Road 2 movies. They are road movies, as Dumb and Dumber is. The two guys are constantly backstabbing each other for Dorothy Lamour. It was very intentional. We also, what was intentional, we loved Some Like It Hot is my favorite comedy of all time. Normally, I won't answer a question, what's your favorite movie? Because I can't say, but I can say Some Like It Hot is my favorite comedy. It was profound when I saw it the first time and went like, that's what a movie can do. You mean every part fits together and comes together, and so Some Like It Hot was very much influenced Dumb and Dumber. And once again, it's about two guys who are sort of backstabbing each other for the girl,
Right.
But I would love to say we were prescient and we wrote a movie that will bring peace on earth and goodwill to all. But really, our intention, Puja, was just to make it. Just to be fun and funny and silly. We were leaning heavily into the title. So, I'll tell you what, my mom only had one review when the movie came out on the refrigerator, cut out and pasted to the refrigerator, and it was and one line from it was highlighted. This was the review my mom kept. And I wish I could remember what paper it was from, but the critic said,
just say the New York Times.
No, okay. Yes, okay. From the New York Times, and the critic said the writer's mother should be ashamed of this. That was my mom's one theory to keep on the refrigerator because she thought that was so funny, and I think she was thrilled that they actually mentioned a mother.
That's a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
Why ashamed? Because we saw a butt in the movie, and because actually two butts, at least I remember.
Yeah.
Is that why? Because
crack.
That was another question I had, because it's kind of felt like now things are even raunchier. So is that why they were saying that?
I don't. When it came out, it was not. It was a big hit financially. It was not. It wasn't reviewed favorably. Most of the reviews were negative for it, and it was the third Jim Carrey movie released in 1994, and I think a lot of critics just felt like Jim Carrey was taking cinema and dragging it further and further down. I don't know, but it was not I don't think that was a positive review.
Right.
It got a few, but not a lot. And since then, again, it has in the consciousness of people, it's come to be thought of as a classic, but it was not reviewed all that favorably. That's the truth of that.
Right, and you got to think back 30 years ago, that was controversial. It was a controversial film, for its time.
It's rated PG-13, which is
right.
I mean, there's a character named Freda Felcher, and it's how we got away with it. By the way, Freda is my sister's name, and that's how we ended up with a character named Freda Felcher. But there are things in there. In fact, there are things in that movie that, if it was made in today, 2023, we would have to redo. We would have to either take out or reconsider doing.
Yeah, there are a lot. I was curious about that because well, I want Cross because he has so many. We powwowed yesterday because I'm such a neurotic over-preparer. So I want Cross to bring up some of the questions because he has a lot too that we combined.
No, so The film itself, you got to think was controversial at the time, which is what made it funny, because you guys took it into a place that most people wouldn't have taken film to, and I think that's what I enjoyed more about it. It was, I think the characters were genuine, and it was made to be funny. You could, it was made to enjoy, and you have all these people, these strict people who thinks that actors should act one way and they should be, movies should be a certain way. And I think that Dumb and Dumber, just took film to a next level.
We were not, I'll tell you this, we weren't intending to push we weren't intentionally pushing boundaries when we wrote it and created it. We literally were just doing the thing that we thought was funny.
Right.
And
oh my God, I love that. I love that.
There was not an intention to. We put a bathroom scene in that would be. We were just like, this is going to be funny. Let's do it. We had an adolescent purity in the creation of it that I absolutely made it to the screen, because everyone from cast to crew was in on it and wanted it to happen, and got the energy of it and got the silliness of it, and all joined in. This is such a wonderful group. The reason why the movie still endures is it was a group effort where everyone brought their spirit of stupidity. I don't know what else to call it, and got into it. They totally got into it.
Cool.
Can you talk more about that, the group effort part?
Well, what's interesting is that Peter is listed as the director, but really it's Peter and Bobby. They co-directed it, and neither of them had been anywhere near a set even. I mean, well, at that point, by the time we shot it in '93, they had, but they've never. Peter had never made a Super 8, never made a movie. None of them had. And so they couldn't have been more amateurs coming to this. In fact, when we sent the script around, the proviso we added to it was that Peter, that Peter wanted to direct it, and this is because of how it developed, what happened, and how it developed. And so, well, you try and send a script like that around in Hollywood in 1992 with an attachment of a guy who's never directed before. It's like everyone turned it down 3 times, and we sent it around 3 times. We kept renaming it and sending it around.
Oh my God, that's genius.
Back then, it wasn't that we didn't have computers quite the way there weren't computers in like 1991. It wasn't. You didn't have Apple yet, and we were like, well, let's call it something else. So we had 2 other names. We renamed it Go West. What happens was, you'd send a script around, and every studio it's called coverage. They'd have someone who would write, they receive it, they'd write something out that just, whether they recommend it or not, they describe what it is. And on every coverage, it was like, pass, everywhere. So we were like, let's call it something else and see if we can get it around again, get them to look at it again. We called it Go West, sent it around, pass. And the 3rd time we called it, a power tool is not a toy. Now I know that sounds bizarre, but it was the name of a song by a group called the Young Americans, and we just said that's so oblique. Let's just put down the script and send it out. Pass. Everybody passed it. You know. And then there were like two producers who had a little company in Santa Monica, California, called the Motion Picture Corporation of America. They were Steven Stabler and Brad Cavoy, and they read it, and they made low budget movies, and they thought it was really funny, and it didn't bother them that there was an attachment. Oh, one of the guys who wrote it also wants to direct it, so they took a chance. They said, "We'll do it," and they were going to make it for like it was going to be low. It was going to be like $1 million or under. It really was. But we were thrilled. But that they're agreeing to do it is created a momentum. I mean, it started, in Hollywood, all you need is the idea of something. It's like the universe. Just all these atoms come together, and then they swirl around for 1 billion years, and then they start to form a planet. That's what happened. Our agent at the time said, "We're just going to send it out. And we're going to say you're directing it, and that's going to create like." There's going to be momentum. And so when the Motion Picture Corporation said, we'll make it, suddenly it was real. It was momentum. Right. It was really happening. I know I'm getting away kind of from your question, and as a result of that, what happened was at New Line had just made The Mask. So they were well aware of Jim Carrey and they liked him. And the head of the production head of New Line, somehow he read Dumb and Dumber. He liked it, and he gave it to Jim Carrey, knowing that the Motion Picture Corporation was producing it. But they contacted the Motion Picture Corporation after Jim said, "I love this," and they said, "We will co-produce this with you," and that's what happened. So New Line co-produced it with the Motion Picture Corporation. Yeah, but I think it ends up being under the New Line banner completely. But Steve Stabler and Brad Cavoy are. If you want something when you watch the credits there. Oh yeah. So you were asking about how the energy of it. So the first day of shooting, Peter and Bobby are there. I wasn't there for the first day, unfortunately, but I wish I had been. And they just said, and they had taken also all the crew individually. They approached them individually, personally. And they said, we basically need your help because this is our first time. We're absolute, first timers here. So we and that kind of modesty and humility really appeals to because all crews usually get is arrogance,
Okay.
And they just warm to it. And they're like, and then they like the script too. And Pete and Bobby are such unbelievably great, wonderful guys. It's like they instantly put you at ease and they make you feel like a friend. So it was like a party. It really was. And that was how everyone got on board and wanted to help everybody else out. They wanted to make it happen,
right.
To make the best movie.
And I think that's cool because, the Farley brothers end up being such, successful writers and directors out there, doing, several films, Me, Myself, and Irene, Something About Mary. So, it's funny. Well, it's funny. It's ironic that people passed it up.
Oh yeah.
And then, once somebody gave them a shot, they turned out to be like, just a comedy duel, with the movies that they put out.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how many missed opportunities there are in Hollywood because people don't give somebody a chance like that.
Well, Parks, many. I mean, sadly,
right.
That's the reality of it. And you'll hear stories of people like that who are people, writers, actors who are like, I literally was leaving town. I was leaving town and I because I've been rejected so many times. And there was one last audition on the way to the airport and I stopped in. I mean, I hear it all the time, including like Naomi Watts, who said she was literally a day from moving back to Australia when Mulholland Drive happened, things like that. So you hear it all the time. Yeah. It's kind of like right place, right time, right person, right talent, right everything coming together. And it doesn't happen. Well, it happens, but it doesn't. But it doesn't happen more often than it happened. I mean, all the and that's the sad thing is that I always tell people who want to write or like if so many people drop out, and for understandable reasons, but so many people who want to do it drop out. But when somebody drops out, if you stay in, you instantly rise a little higher because you're still there. You know, you keep going up, 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 and I tell people don't drop out, don't give up. If it must happen for you and you feel that way, do not give up because other people will, and when they do, you rise.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's like that's really great advice too, because a lot of people do get discouraged easy,
and it's hard and it's understandable. I mean, if you're not making a living, and you've got to make a living, you've got to earn. That's but there are people who they'll rearrange everything around their life to keep their goal as the focus, and those are the ones who do make it.
Cool. So I want to go kind of back to the beginning, of your journey. What kind of motivated you? What got you started in becoming a writer?
I always wanted to be a writer from when I was a little kid. I was a voracious reader, and my parents were very much pushed me to read, and education was really important. I have two older sisters, and education was really important in our family, and I loved to read, and reading was magical for me. So I read a lot, and I watched a lot. I watched a lot of movies. My parents were generous enough to let us watch movies on TV and take us to the movies, and let my sisters take me to the movies. So I was a regular moviegoer, and that's how I learned. I integrated it not just the words, but the visuals and how things were cut. It all went in my head, and sort of I was a filmmaker in my head, or just raised in a visual and oral medium like film, and that's where I said, gosh, it was always a fantasy. It was always like, well, we didn't have any connection to the business whatsoever. So I didn't, and although I grew up here in Los Angeles, I just thought, well, I don't have the connection. It's not going to happen. I kind of understood just from the reality of it. When you live in Los Angeles and you see people who are in the business, it's all because of, I wouldn't say it's all nepotism, but, and so, when I went to UCLA, and here's what I thought I would do. I thought, I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach writing. My mom loved the idea of me being. I either should be a doctor or a teacher. That was her wish for me.
Okay.
And the doctor was not going to happen.
Right.
I neither had the grades nor the capacity to look at blood without wanting to faint.
My dad wanted me to be a doctor too.
like go big, mom and dad. Why not? But not for me. I knew that wasn't for me. So I thought, okay, I do like the idea of I could teach writing. And one thing in my head, I remember thinking as a kid was like, I believe that there's a writer in every kid, in every person. It's just a question of telling them, of getting them to find the output, the way to express it. That's all. That was always my thought as growing up. So I went to UCLA as an undergraduate. I got a BA in fiction, in writing. And then when I finished the program at UCLA, I wanted to go to grad school, and I wanted to get an MFA in fiction. And the idea was that I would probably, although I lived in LA, I'd probably move to some town in the Midwest, and I would get a coat with leather patches and a pipe and teach writing.
Wait, a coat with leather patches and what?
And a pipe.
Did you want to go to the Iowa Writers Workshop?
Yes. Yeah,
that's where I wanted to go too. Yeah,
because at the time, that was the Iowa Writing Workshop was the top of the. But I talked to my professors at UCLA, and several of them said UMass and Amherst has a really great writing program. And right away, I was like, I've always wanted to go to Massachusetts. I've always wanted to see what it was like. It's in the wood. I just said, that's it. So that's where I went. And the first day of class of graduate school, I met Peter Farrelly in the first class.
I heard that story on YouTube. I YouTube another interview, and I heard that story, and I want to hear more about this. I love that happened.
And we were sitting across from each other, and we instantly knew we had the same sense of humor because the teacher made a pun that he didn't realize, and Pete and I looked across the table and we started laughing, and so after class we went, that was funny, and we shook hands and became friends from the first day. So it didn't take long for us to get to know each other and get to know that we were very quirky. And at a certain point, we wanted to write a movie together. We said, let's write a movie together. Now, Peter was from Cumberland, Rhode Island. He had no connection. His parents, his father was a doctor. His mother was his father's nurse. No connection, like I had no connection. But we just thought we have the same sense of humor. Let's write something. So we did. We during the last year of our programs, we wrote this comedy, and we'd never written a script before. Neither of us, separately or together, we wrote this comedy called Dust to Dust. It was a silly comedy about two idiots who get a job at a funeral home, like a down and out funeral home that advertises, special holiday layaway sale and don't get buried with high prices. And it turns out the funeral home is a front for drug smuggling, and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so now we have this silly script, Dust to Dust. What do we do with it? So we were coming to the end of 1985, I think, end of 85. And Peter was on a date in New York with this girl who told him that her parents just moved in next door to Eddie Murphy in Alpine, New Jersey.
Oh my God! Oh my God! This is so wild. I have a really good friend that lives in Alpine, New Jersey. He's an amazing artist. Akash, I'm giving him a shout out right here. You have to listen to his music. I'm going to send it to you. But he knows Eddie Murphy lived in Alpine.
Eddie Murphy had just moved in across the street from her parents.
Oh, wow.
So and so Peter said, "You ever see him?" And she said, "Yeah, I saw him washing his car last week." So he gave her Dust to Dust. She calls a week later and she says, he was coming out to get his newspaper, and I ran out and gave him the script.
Oh my God, my heart is palpitating right now. This is amazing. I love this kind of story.
You can't do this today. You can't get near Eddie Murphy today, much less would you hand him the hand him a
right.
flash drive, right? So now, meanwhile, I was home for the holidays in Los Angeles, and I knew that my sister Freda, she liked to go folk dancing, and she knew David Zucker, who did Airplane, who co-wrote Airplane with his brother Jim Abrahams. Jerry Zucker, yeah. And I said, Freda, would you ask David if he'd read our script, Dust to Dust? And so she asked him, and David said, sure. So she gave David Dust to Dust. So now Dust to Dust is with Eddie Murphy in New York and with David Zucker in Los Angeles. Flash forward a few months later, and we're both graduating from our programs. I'm gonna move back to Los Angeles and then figure out what I want to do. I get not an email. There was no email back then. I get an envelope from my dad, and inside's an article from the Los Angeles Times. Now, Eddie Murphy at this time was the #1 box office in America. He'd done Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours. He was hot. And so everyone wanted to make a movie with Eddie Murphy at Paramount. And I open it up, and here's this Los Angeles Times article, and it's all about, the article was called The Eddie Murphy Script Derby, Winner Takes All. And it was all about Eddie Murphy acquiring scripts and all that stuff. I'm going to show you a copy of the article so you can.
Oh, wow.
There it is.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Wait, I have a whole question about this. Was this an innovative thing that he was doing at that time? Because now everybody is doing things like that. this seems ahead of the curve. Was he a visionary in some way doing this kind of script contest?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a script contest. It was just really about how every agent is submitting something to him. You know, this wasn't like a Willy Wonka contest to find a great script for him. It was all professional. So I'm going to read you the first paragraph.
Okay.
So it says, wanted, movie vehicle for Eddie Murphy, must be mint condition, packed with spills, chills, and laughs, lots of laughs. And now I'm going to read you the first paragraph of the actual opening of it right there. Okay. It says, on a recent Sunday morning, Eddie Murphy glanced out the living room window of his Alpine, New Jersey home and noticed a neighbor standing in the front yard. Under her arm, she carried a script, a sight that made Murphy take a deep breath as he opened the front door. After chatting briefly, Murphy dutifully tucked Dust to Dust under his arm.
Wow.
Later that night, on a flight to Houston for a concert, Murphy started to read. He liked what he read. It made him laugh. Now Murphy wants to option the story, and the neighbor is on the verge of selling her first script to Hollywood.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. This
I'm
is what
getting
happened.
goosebumps. Oh my God.
Eddie read it, thought it was hilarious. He came back to Los Angeles. They searched for us at every agency in town.
Wow.
There was no Peter Farrelly and Bennett Yelin anywhere. They printed this. They planted that in the article to get us to call in. This is why we were mentioned. Meanwhile, I come back and my sister Freda calls and she says, Bennett, David Zucker wants to talk to you. I called David Zucker. He says, yeah, we read Dust to Dust. We want you guys to write something for us. So we came to we called Paramount, by the way. We said, hey, we're the guys who wrote Dust to Dust. And they were like, we've been looking for you. We've been searching for you, and we placed that in the article so you'd call in. So we came to town without an agent, and we were going to write something for Eddie Murphy, and we're going to write something for the Zucker brothers. Right after they'd done Airplane, before they released Top Secret, their second movie. So we were like, that couldn't happen now. I won't accept the script. I won't get us because for legal reasons. You've got to inure yourself and protect yourself. You can't accept a script from anybody, because someone will say, I handed Bennett a screenplay, and then the whole plot of the next thing he worked on is similar,
Right.
And so that was just a thing of the time that happened. It was that talent meets opportunity meets everything kind of came together to make that happen. And that's how Peter and I got started. And Peter and I continued to write together for years until we asked Bobby to join us. I'll get to. I want to stop in case you want to ask questions because there's I could take you through more of our career, but
I'm just processing this. I'm processing this because my mom says this all the time. They will find you. Keep writing. They will find you. It doesn't matter where. And I had a friend who was on a wonderful writer who was on the Nickel quarterfinalist top 10.
yes.
He was an attorney now. He's in LA, Huram Mozafar. And he was here taking classes at Columbia writing while he was an attorney. And we did a workshop at Silk Road Rising, and he saved all the voicemails of everyone that called him after he was on the Nickel top 10.
Yes.
And everyone. And he told me, he's like, you could be in a little island with no service, nothing, and they will find you.
Yes.
That's always stayed with me. What do you have questions, Parks, about this? I'm curious. What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking, how each person had that opportunity, and everybody who, fulfilled their purpose in that. So like your friend who went and took the script to Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
If any of that hadn't happened,
the
whole thing would have fallen apart.
Yeah.
So you're looking at each person, each role that each person played in there that brought this career together. Bring your career together and helping you elevate and become this great writer. So
Parks, if I hadn't asked my sister, if Pete hadn't asked his date, it could have been as easy as that, Maybe he ate too much and he had an upset stomach. He was like, okay, I want to go home. I'm tired. I mean, all those factors, tiny little moments that may not have happened that happened. It's crazy.
And see, this is a testament too of always looking for opportunities and never being afraid to take that risk.
That's absolutely right. 100%. I mean, like again, if I had been like too shy to ask my sister,
Right.
and if Pete had been too shy to ask her, you know, that would have been the end of that. And even to the point of, because I'm not advocating this in the way I'm saying it, but make a nuisance of yourself. Like ask the person who if you're saying to yourself, oh gosh, should I do it or not? I mean, the worst they can say is, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
Right.
And the best they can say is, sure, I'll do it. I mean, that's not. Those aren't terrible. The worst is not the worst thing to endure.
Right. And you know, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. Even if you went to one route and you ask somebody and they said no, well, keep going. You look for the next opportunity.
That's what Dumb and Dumber was turned down by everybody on this planet and very possibly Mars if we had sent it.
I can't believe that. The other thing is, though, I think from what I know, I'm saying this with all humility. I don't know that much, but I know Hollywood is structured this way. However, there are many other parts of the world that are not like this. And so you can go guerrilla style there and still do your thing. And yeah, so I guess I hope that makes sense. It's like go where the love is. Go where the love is. If you're not getting love there, go do it yourself or figure it out another way to do it. Like make it a play, make it a book, go make it a novel. Nobody can stop you if you just have, just all the tools that we have, which I realize that you didn't have that at the time. You couldn't go and shoot Dumb and Dumber on your phone, but we can do that now.
Absolutely.
And even if you can't do that, you can write it as a book and then just put it up wherever people self-publish stuff. That's what happened with The Martian. It was self-published. Yeah. So this is so empowering.
Now, Puja, you said it. You said they'll find you, and that really is the reality. If I've always said the cream rises to the top, and if you're good, you're whatever you've written, whatever you're doing. If you're not good, well, I don't know what to tell you. Except if you can get better and become better and like get good. But if you're good, and again, we'd never written a script before, but there was something about us together. There was something about our sensibility and our jokes and the fact that I kind of knew the structure of movies so that I knew how how to write it as a script, those kind of things. That we shined, even though it was our first thing. It shined for people. There's something in it was glittering, even if it was crusty around the edges. And what's typical in a Hollywood writer's career is you make some movies you get made. A lot of movies don't get made, and a lot of scripts don't. Nothing happens with them when you write them. But every script that you write is still there's an opportunity to somehow take something from it and put it into something else. And when I saw Green Book, which was co-written and directed by Peter Farrelly, in the opening scene, there's a joke from Dust to Dust, and he didn't tell me he was putting it in the movie, and I burst out laughing in the theater, and everyone was like, "Why is that guy grinning?" I couldn't believe it when I saw it. That jokes never die; they just never die. You can always put them in something. But if you are talented and you've got a talent, it will be seen. It will be seen. So that's why stick with it. That's have the confidence to stick with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So I actually had a meeting with CAA and I told my mom, and I'm embarrassed to tell this story because I was like, Mom, I'm having a meeting with CAA today. Do you know what that is? And I don't know if this is actually true. So the journalist in me is hoping that I'm not spreading fake news, but I think it's the biggest agency in the world. So I told her that.
Yeah.
She goes,
yeah. What'd you say?
They're not bigger than God. It was like the best thing to hear going into the meeting because it's humbling.
That's
it's
good.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it was like I feel like we give our power away. It's all in us, and actually it's not even in us. This is another thing I wanted to ask. I feel like it comes through us, and I'm curious, like how did you channel that movie? Like what was the process? Because that part of creativity is just like receiving and allowing and then putting it on paper, on your iPad, wherever you write, your laptop. Like I know Jack Kerouac would like write I've read a lot of rituals that writers have. Like I know he would light a candle. Do you have any rituals, or is there anything that you do to allow creativity to just flow and expand from everywhere that it comes from onto the page?
It's funny you say that because I had to write a lot, like stories and stuff for my graduate degree, and my parents would always say, like, Bennett, have you finished doing this or that, writing that story, whatever? And I'd say, I remember I would like a little kid, I'd say, Mom and Dad, I can't just turn it on and off. I can't, I would, that would be my defense that like, let me have my process, it's not.
Right.
Wait, how old were you when you said that?
In my 20s, Puja. I swear to you, I said it. I said
that's
exactly.
Like a boozy thing to say. But that's actually a great thing to say too.
I just felt so much pressure from them, and that's the pressure of writing too. Is especially like this is before I had a career where I'm being hired, and this is once you say yes, once you sign contracts, once you get paid, you are a huge piece of a process that everyone's depending on. I mean, it's way more pressure than your parents. It's like a million parents going like, turning this in.
I can't believe you're bringing this up because I wanted to ask you about family, particularly parents, and the pressure that they put. How do you, now you're saying that this is more pressure because we all want to be also working in this system too. Not that we need it, but it's nice. Yeah. And how do you manage that?
You learn how. First of all, I'll tell you really, this is a cop out. It's a great answer, but it's also a cop out solution to managing stress and pressure. I always worked with writing partners. I never wrote by myself ever. And this was a very intentional thing on my part because my favorite writer is still William Goldman, who wrote The Princess Bride and Marathon Man and won Academy Awards for All the President's Men and Butch Cassidy, The Sundance Kid. My favorite writer, and he said the loneliest thing in the world, writing is the loneliest thing in the world, to go into a room by yourself and close the door and sit down at a typewriter back then, not a and it's just, and you're by yourself. And I was like, no, I want to be with a friend. I want to be throwing it back and forth. I don't want all the pressure to be on me to create it. I love being a part of a team. I really do. I have, and I think I just don't have the kind of ego that insists that I have to be it has to be me. I have to be the director, the choreographer, the cinematographer. No, I love being a part of the process. I love that. I love working on a team. So it's a lot easier to deal with pressure when you can talk it out with your writing partner. And I've always had, with Peter and Bobby, that was the only time I worked with two other people. Otherwise, I worked with one other partner. And then I've been in writers' rooms too, which is a lot of fun. And I've written a bunch of things with this director, Brian Levant. Brian Levant comes from television. He was involved in the original Happy Days. And so he loves a writer's room. He likes a room full of other writers, and we're all throwing it around. It's so much fun. But there's several things you need to learn to do to be a professional writer, and one is deal with the pressure of expectation. Another one is learn how to, and this is a really, really practical but smart thing to have to learn, and it often takes. This will keep you employed, and that is, you will get terrible notes from the people who pay you to write. You turn in your draft, and you will get horrible notes from them. If you have the skill, you really are like Rumpelstiltskin, to take a bad note and spin it into something positive, spin it into a positive gold solution, you will work. It's not easy, and there's a lot of politics about who you have to play. Like, you may have multiple producers and you're getting conflicting notes from them, well, you should do this, but someone else's note is, well, you should do something that's the opposite of that. If you can somehow traverse all those challenges and take bad notes and come up with good solutions, you're a magician, and they love it too. You'll keep writing and everything. And the third thing, I mean, there's other things, but the third thing is, people don't realize that. I think most people's idea of a screenwriter is, oh, you sit in a room and you type and you hand in the script and then it gets made. That's what happens, and that is not even close to the truth. And one of the parts of that process that no one thinks about is the pitching process of you actually having to sit down and pitch yourself, pitch your project, pitch your notes, pitch your rewrite of a script to executives. You sit there across a room from the people who purposely have poker faces, and because
that makes so much sense now. I didn't know that. That's intentional that they do that.
Oh, absolutely. They don't want you to know whether they like it or not. That's discussed after you leave. That's all, and they're meeting with a lot of people. The few times where I've actually got people to laugh during a pitch, actually, the few times where I did were times where I knew that I sold it, or that we sold it together. But no, they won't give you anything, except this.
This is great. I think having Indian parents is like the perfect training for Hollywood.
Well, Mom's comment about CAA. By the way, the main difference between CAA and God is that God validates. That's my joke. But yeah, so if you can learn how to do that, how to write give great solutions to bad notes, because you're going to get bad notes. Your career is going to be rife with terrible notes, things you don't want to do, but they're paying you, so you got to do it. I mean, it's tough. The only time that it's your baby and it's only your baby is when you're writing a first draft before they see it,
Right.
or you're doing something on spec, and it's all so there's no executives, there's no money involved, it's just you writing what you want to write, the script you've always wanted to write. And I've written a bunch of scripts on spec. Just sold the spec script literally hours before the writer's strike started. Sold a spec script.
Wow.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I'm a genre. For many years when I was working with Pete and Bobby, and then a couple of the other writers that I worked with after them, I was only doing comedy, because the other thing about when you write a screenplay is that it inhabits you. You're living in the creation for the period of time that you're doing it. So we're talking weeks, we're talking months. And so I always like to do comedy, because to wake up and say, oh, I got to write something funny today. It's just, you're in a funny mood. Even if you're not feeling funny, at least it's a positive energy. But then I started writing with another writing partner of mine, and I like all genres too. I like horror, I like suspense, I like family, I like them all, really, because I just love movies. But with this writing partner, James Johnston, who I co-wrote the script we sold is called Traction, and it's a supernatural thriller. But it's supernatural, and it's kind of it's scary, and to be in that headspace for months. Right. Not fun. Usually what I do is I'd want to write a comedy after something like that. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I've done different genres. I like comedy the best because it just makes me feel good. But so Traction is a supernatural thriller. Basically, a young woman wakes up in a hospital room. She's in traction. She can't move. Her bones are broken, and she has amnesia. Doesn't know who she is, how she got there, what she's doing there. Nothing. But she comes to realize that something in that room doesn't want her there, or in that and she's trapped. And
like an energy, or like what?
Like that, yes, very possibly that.
Oh,
it's
wow.
got kind of a twisty plot, yeah. So it's all about her starting to remember what happened, and then figuring out why she's where she is, and then how the hell is she going to get out? Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Bennett. So when you do write a first draft of a film,
Yeah.
And you've put all the your effort in, and then you bring it to a producer, and then they're like, oh, change this, and they they do that multiple times.
Okay.
Do you feel like it starts changing your story, and does it kind of take away some of the fun in writing, or is it just like a new challenge to try to keep it as the original, just add what they're looking for?
Well, there are two answers. If you're asking me if I'm writing a spec screenplay, which means there's no producer attached yet, you're just doing it for fun. You don't have to. It's all about you. And and you're trying to get a producer, at a certain point, You're going to send it out. You want them to read it, and you want to attach a producer who sees it the way you do, right? So you're not going to be changing it for the producer. You want a producer who signs on because they have the same vision you do. Right. That's very different when you're hired, because once you're hired, you're a writer for hire. And I've sold spec scripts that became movies where they kept us on, and we did have to change it. But at that point, we're changing it because the director. Usually, when a director comes on, you have to rewrite it for the director. They have like every piece of it can possibly impact it, change it in ways. But once you're hired, once the money is involved, you've got to sort of try and figure out how to accommodate the people who are going to be making this movie. I mean, they're the ones who are going to actually be putting it on the screen, and it becomes challenging because they could have it's the goal is ultimately your ultimate goal is to get your movie made if you're being right, as opposed to having it just sit on a desk for the rest of its life. And so that requires creative compromises. It does. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear like with Quentin Tarantino, somebody usually like a writer director usually, and they're like, well, I didn't want a word change, and I don't allow that, and so who's the creator of the West Wing or the West Wing?
Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin's another one. I don't. And they can afford to do that. They are also the director, Oliver Stone. But when you're just the writer like I am, and I've never really wanted to be a director, I've just enjoyed. Again, I love being part of the team. I would hate to have all the anxiety and responsibility of a director because, and instead, when you co-write a movie with the director, you get all of the pluses and none of the negative, none of the minuses. You don't have to deal with the anxiety of being on set every day. It's fantastic. You show up whenever you want to, and they're happy to. And your writing partner who's directing the movie happy to have you there. But you don't have that stress and anxiety of going home and thinking about having to make the amount of pages you have to shoot the next day and all that stuff. But once you take on that responsibility, you have to find creative ways to accommodate the people. Usually it's less the producers who want things changed and more once a director is involved, and when a director is attached, now you're really closer to production, to actually getting it made. So you want to accommodate them. But I've had many directors have notes that we disagreed with, and we were like, how do we? And there were a couple of times where when we finally learned that it's about getting it made rather than like the bottom line is get it made, and that's the goal everyone wants to work for.
Right.
That impacts you in a different way. It's not like it has to be made the way I want it made, and the way it's you have to realize that changes are possible and necessary. Budget changes, things like that, scenes have to be changed. You just have to kind of suck it up and do the best you can.
Another thing too is, like when you first started, there wasn't as many opportunities or the technology that we have now, where people could go in and just do their own film,
Yes.
And then you have the streaming services that will, that you could get it on. And I think it's so much easier now to get a film out. That's why there's so many independent filmmakers. And one of the things I like about independent filmmakers is that I feel like their projects are more original because they don't have all these voices in their head saying, hey, do this, do that, or they're not trying to, Hollywood tends to like take a certain style of movie and they want to just do like a whole, group of those type of movies. Yeah.
Because if it makes money, we'll just make another one. Hopefully that'll make this. I'm telling you, we didn't have this. This is a movie. This is a movie studio in your hand.
Right.
If you could be creative with that, and there have been so many people who've done that, and there've been a few directors who've released movies shot on an iPhone. That the iPhone is the cameras, all the technical things that are accessible to people today who want to make a movie are we didn't have any of that. Yeah, it's Super 8, that was it, and yeah, it's incredible the access people have to this stuff. And then you'll see. I mean, the really creative people spark to it. They're like, yeah, I've got it. I've got a phone and it makes movies. I'm going to make one. That's the difference between the creative who's going to be successful and the one who just is like, no, I'm going to write a script and I'm going to sell it for $2 million. And I'm going to, this unrealistic view of what Hollywood is and what success is like too,
Cool. I have a question. Is there a particular movie or film that you would love to do?
You mean like the real answer to that is at this point I am essentially like retired now. I mean, I really
no, no way. You cannot do that. No way. I'll tell you why you can't do that.
Tell me why, Puja.
I think we get to experience a female Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, I've thought about it. I would love to see it. I would love to see two characters, like a female version of Harry and Lloyd. I'd love to.
It would be hilarious.
I know. I would. I mean, the closest I'd seen to it was High School Reunion. The something. The two.
Wait, what about Girls Trip? Did you see Girls Trip?
I haven't seen Girls Trip yet, but I want to.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. You have to see Girls Trip. It is so good.
I heard it's good. I love anything that I think is like to see women being silly is I will run right to it. Like Bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids?
Right, one of my favorite comedies. But Romeo and Michelle, that was as close coming from around the time of Dumb and Dumber that I saw where the two dense girls, and I loved Romeo and Michelle. I would love to, but here, I mean, look, the bottom line is the reality is this, and the business has changed enormously. Right now, it's all streaming has impacted the business in a huge way, and it's so much about the studios are making big budget, comic book, adaptations, and I know how to make a really nice sandal, but we're making everything that's being made now is like a tennis shoe, and I just feel like I'm sort of like what I did and I enjoy doing it is not something that gets made a lot now, and so at the end of 2018 I kind of said, you know what, I've done everything I kind of want to do, and and things have changed. And the reality is, I'm older. You know, I'm in my mid-60s. And
You're not old.
well,
You're not old. What if we got you the money to make sandals? You want to make sandals? We can do that.
It's
You
all
wanna
right.
make sandals?
Right now, yes, I want to make a sandal.
Oh,
Right
okay. Whatever that means, we'll work on it. Okay. Rainbow Productions and Crossman Productions will work on it. If you had the money to and you didn't have to work in that system that's so much pressure, and you could be in the flow. And
only those ifs. That's it. I mean, like,
and also,
biggest
you're not. Oh, 60s is what's that?
Just the biggest ifs on the planet. You said the only if, and then you zipped off 3, and I'm like, any one of those is something that would stop something. But here's the other thing. I have done it all, and so the idea of starting down a road to getting a movie made now, I know what that road entails. I know all the bumps. I know all the potholes on it. It's a lot, and I'm at an age now where I'm like, all I really want to do is enjoy my life and enjoy and have fun. Right. I would take a project that came along, and by the way, the phone does ring, and it's a producer I worked with in the past says, "Are you interested in this? Can we?" It does ring. That I love when that happens because it's unexpected. It's usually based on relationships that I've established over the course of 30-something years as in a career. But I just my criteria for it has to be fun.
Yeah.
As much as I can predict, it cannot be stressful, and you never know until suddenly you're getting notes, and then you find out that they're crazy people, and and then is it something I haven't done before? Is it something that will actually help me evolve me? Will I grow from doing this? What are my criteria for doing so to go back and do something I've already done? It's not as much. It doesn't feel like a priority to me as much as something new, right, that's interesting, that's different, that may be a little scary when I think about it, but at least there's the potential of growing from it. Those are the things that I look to do now, And the business has changed so much too, But trust me, every day an idea, I go like, ooh, that's an idea for a movie, but I go, no, I shut it down. I go, no, I write it down. I always do write it down. I write down everything that pops into my head. But thank you for being my enthusiastic.
Barbara Streisand only wants to have fun too now. So so you guys can hang out and have fun. But the thing is, seriously. But the thing is that this is so ironic because this is supposed to be fun. And see, but I feel like I didn't know that that's how it is, because I don't feel like I'm entrenched in the system yet or at all to know that. So that makes me that's unfortunate. We'll have to find a way for it all to be fun again, because that's where all the magic is, and then that's where all the best movies are, is when the energy you talked about, where like not just one person infused it with that sense of play and creativity and like, oh, you know what, that sorry, I'm gonna go on a detour. That's like one of the things I love the most between watching Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, because you really feel like they're working together in this beautiful synergy and harmony, and there's like no ego, no one's trying to like they kept elevating each other in every scene, like moment to moment. I wanted to ask you, like, what was the science and construction of those comedic bits and the physical comedy too? That it was just so, like, I could see the handprints of, the handprints in a way too. I'm wondering, like, okay, was that Peter directing them this way with this blocking? Was that them? But my point is that all that stuff happens when that fun is there, and then everyone, like you said, the team effort. So
that's exactly right. And look we wrote a script that was a funny script. The script was funny. It was a solidly funny script. We had 2 actors who are terrific and recognize, who are smart actors and recognize that everyone was in sync, and Peter and Bobby said to the cinematographer, like, how do we shoot this? And he said, this is the way you shoot this kind of gag. And like everyone came to it and brought it and was in on the project. Those are the best movies, because it is such a miracle that a movie emerges, from the assembly line and comes out of the factory, and there is so much that can happen to screw a movie up. Even a good script can make a bad movie, but a bad script can never make a good movie. A bad script, no. A good script can get worn down as it's going along the assembly line, and things can happen. Budget, actors, all these things can affect it. But a bad script can never get. It's very hard to get better. It doesn't happen very often. There's been a few movies that were good movies that were famously involved in rewrites and everything like that, and somehow were good. But that's a rarity. And so and the best movies are the ones where everyone is in sync. They're all attuned to it. That the crew, everyone wants it to be its best, and that energy goes into it. And Dumb and Dumber was one of those, no question.
So let me ask you, you've been through this. What was the biggest advice that you could give somebody who's trying to get into film writing?
You guys, 111 angel numbers. We're at 111.
Oh yeah, there you go. Right.
That's so cool. Okay.
Because you can't hand your script to Eddie Murphy these days. One of them I already kind of half gave, which was don't give up. Like stay with your dream, stay with your goal, believe in yourself, don't give up. That's number one. Also, I'm going to give like 3 pieces of advice. The best way to become a better writer is to write more. You can't write one script, spend a year writing it, and then say, that's it, now I'm going to get this movie made. No, write more scripts. The more you write, the better you get. Read scripts. They're all available online, including Dumb and Dumber. They're all available. You can get them everywhere. Read them. Read great scripts. Read the scripts of movies that you like. See the format of it, so that you understand it, and that's huge. And then I think that one way that once you're writing, you have a script and you're really proud of it, you've always got to get feedback on it. You cannot operate in a vacuum where you're the only critic of your script. Right. You have to get eyes on it. Because at the very least, then this is something, it's so simple and elemental, and I am such a big advocate of this, and that is your script, that when you give it to somebody, when you're done with it and you feel like it's done and you're handing it out, and it's just this prideful, it's your business card. It is your business card. Do you want your business card smudged? Do you want, so it cannot have any mistake. You must not have zero typo. When someone is reading your script, especially when it's when you're talking about somebody in the business,
right?
They are looking for every opportunity to say no, because when they say yes, it starts into motion a process that's so complicated, and so it's so much easier to shut something down than to make it a possibility. Like, maybe because if an executive is reading it and he's like, oh, I'm liking this, shoot, now it's going to have to go to the next step and all this stuff. So if you can't give them anything to trip on, there can't be any wrinkles in that rug. And so it's got to be clean. It's got to look professional. It's got to, the form itself has to be pristine and needs to be, you have mistakes, someone will say, this is not a professional, and they'll, but okay. So now that's 3 things of advice. The fourth is, the way that you get something read now is there are lots of, and this is what I've noticed. I'm just saying it, and maybe I'm being naive about it, but there are lots of screenwriting contests now, and a lot of them are kind of a little shifty, like you have to pay money to have your script entered in it, whatever. But you win these contests, you get, the more you win a contest with your script, like Puja said, they'll find you. They'll hear that this script has won, and you might meet a producer and say, and you say, yeah, I've won like 5 screenwriting contests with my script. They're going to instantly want to read your script. So that's a way of accessing it, because agencies are looking. They're looking at those contests. I mean, a lot of find out what the contests are. Like Nichols. An agency will contact everyone who places in a Nichols contest. I don't know if they've contacted your friend, but they will, because they know that's it's like someone going to Harvard as far as they're concerned. So that's some of the advice I've got for writers out there. And keep writing. Don't give up. Make it clean. It's got to be clean. Let someone else see it. Even if you give it to 3 people to read and they read it and they all say the same thing is wrong with it, like this or that, and you don't agree with that, there's something wrong with you, because there's something wrong with it, and they're telling you what's wrong with it. 3 people have told you. Your ego is keeping you from seeing that. So get it seen, get it read. Go to workshops, join writers groups. I know a lot of people go to writers groups. Some people are working on a short story. Some people are working on a novel. A lot of people are working on screenplays. Get that feedback. It's crucial. It's huge, and it's going to help you too. It's going to help you, and it's going to make your screenplay better. Right.
That's great advice too, because there's a lot of friends that that I have in Florida who are actors and filmmakers, and they all submit every year. They submit to a film festival called OIF. I think it's Orlando Independent Films, and that's how a lot of their films get made, is going through organizations like that. So that's great advice.
You've got to get eyes on your script.
Right.
You absolutely have to have somebody read it and give you feedback. You can't just do it alone. It's I don't know anyone who could pull that off. No one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, did you have another question,
Puja?
I see you thinking. I see the wheels turning.
So many. But I want to be respectful of your time. So I will let Cross lead.
Well, I mean, don't feel like you can't ask it if
Okay, I have to.
All right. This was burning.
Do we have time though?
Yeah, I have a few more minutes. Yeah, I mean, go like 5 more minutes. 5. Yeah.
Okay, I really am curious about the I teach as well, so for my students, I would love them to hear this as well. The comedy that's in Dumb and Dumber, from the way and I feel, and tell me, just, you can be honest, it won't hurt my feelings if I'm being redundant, but the way that was created, it's like there is a science and kind of like ensemble work going on, and it's great acting and it's improvisation and it's obviously amazing writing. I'm curious, since you co-wrote it, like what is the science of that? How can people create that? And how to, like, when you wrote it, did you write it the way that it was brought to life? Or did that kind of quantum leap, after you wrote it, and even you were surprised at the things that were coming up? So I'm interested in the science of how that was created. And then the other question I have, I'll ask after you answer this one.
All right. Well, I mean, you're using the word science, and I'm gonna counter that with a completely different word.
Okay.
And the intuitive. It was, we all. Peter and I had worked together for a number of years before Bobby joined us. But at a certain point, we always had Bobby. We talked about letting someone else read it. Bobby was in business school, and we would let Bobby read our scripts. And he always came back to us with great notes. Always. I mean, we put the notes. He'd have lines and things like that. We put them in the scripts. And then finally, at one point, we were hired to do a sequel to the movie Dragnet. Called Dragnet 2, rather cleverly. And at that point, Peter said, what if Bobby joined us as a part of the team, like the third team member? And I said, absolutely, because he's great, and his notes have always been great. So at that point, Bobby officially joined us, but we'd worked with him for years already, and so there was a synergy. The way that we would work, we thought we just all. It's hard to explain because it's so intuitive. But how we would literally work was I'm sitting in front of the typewriter, the word processor. They're behind me on either side. They'd sit on either side, and I would type. I was always the typist, so I'm typing, but somehow I type a sentence, and if they didn't say anything, that meant they agreed to keep going,
Okay.
right? Or they would interject, but whatever went down on the screen, like was typed through my fingers on this, it was something that we all intuitively agreed upon. So the science of it was just that we were joined at the brain. In terms of our sensibilities and what made us laugh, we already knew we shared that same comical. We wore those comic glasses, and we saw the world through the comic lenses, and then whatever, if I thought of a gag or a joke or a visual to throw in, fine. Peter Peter would go to parties, and Peter was great at this. He's a great. First of all, you just want to talk to him, and he gets you to talk to him because he makes you so at ease. He's so gregarious, and so people would and then he'd leave a party and he had notebooks of lines that someone would say at the party, and he'd write them down. He had notebooks full of lines and things from the party. And
my God, I do that. People will say things and I'll write them, and I kind of feel like I have a lot of guilt around it because I'm like, later will they feel that I can't even believe I'm admitting this, but like I hear things and I'll write it down. How does he navigate that with the people he knows personally that he met at the party?
He doesn't tell them he's writing it down. It's in his head. He writes it down, and no one, I don't think anyone ever in the history of his career ever said like, I told you that. How could you put that down? No one did. And in fact, if it was something that he felt would be, like sensitive, like if someone confessed something to him, he wouldn't, But so before we'd write a movie, he'd take out one of the notebooks and we'd go through it and we'd say, what about this line? And we'd pull that line. We pull that way. We pull lines out of it and say, that might work for this. And we put them in the scripts, So, but we really had one brain, the way we thought of something. But this doesn't mean that it went smoothly a lot of the time. I always say that calling something writing does not take into account the amount of things thought of that are discarded. It's really like you have a big block of marble and you're going, what about this idea? No. And and then you just you chip away and chip away. Nope. You say, no. You cannot imagine the number of things that you said it shouldn't be in it. Nope, that doesn't work. That's a huge part of the process. But what you're left with are the things that you go, that does. That's the thing that does. That's funny. Let's keep that. So yeah, again, it wasn't. I don't know what the science is. There may be a science to intuition and group think. But once we knew what we wanted to write, and we especially with Dumb and Dumber, we had worked out what the story should be, and we maybe had some lines from Peter's notebook about what could be in it. Then it's just now the work begins. You sit down and you start, like open on a street. Hope Street, by the way, we didn't write Hope Street in the script. They were shooting it in Providence, and Hope Street was right there. And so we're like, Hope Street, fantastic. Let's start with Hope Street. That was an on-set sort of,
Wait. Oh, that was the street that you guys were on when you were shooting?
Yes, yeah, that was not that wasn't in the script. Like that, the name of the street was Hope Street. They were shooting it on Hope Street, and so we said, let's start with that. Hope. That was intentional, but it wasn't in our script.
Okay, so first off, I'm going to say two things, and one is more for my students because I really do feel that we all do this. I've been guilty of it too. I think I've shifted this pattern, but we all think it's outside of us. And what I love about when you explain this about the intuition, it's also that you knew Peter from college. Like you'd already been creating there for so many years. And same thing with In the Heights. Like I know Lin-Manuel Miranda I'm pretty sure he wrote it while he was in college as well. again, I don't hope I'm not misquoting the facts, but it's like the people that are in class now, those are the people they're going to be collaborating with for the rest of their lives. And
Yes.
it's so easy for them to feel like, I had one student say to me, like, how am I ever going to make it? And he wants to be on Narcos. How am I going to make it? I live in the ghetto and stuff. And it's like, no, like, you are going to make it. And it's not about Narcos. It's like it's you and like you and Carmen and Anthony and Caleb. Like, you guys are going to do it together.
Yeah.
I'm going to a higher register. I need to breathe. Okay. I have a trivia question, and then I have another question. What about Mary? What's the history about Mary, the name Mary?
Well, that was, we had a joke that we thought of that we wanted, and we worked backwards from it. And because we had a character named Lloyd Christmas, we thought if Lloyd has the fantasy of ever marrying Mary, she'd be Merry Christmas.
Right.
That is the truth. And there have been people who've figured that out and called us on it, but we thought that's funny that she'd be Merry Christmas. I've never heard of a Merry Christmas before, but he's Lloyd Christmas.
That's so good, and I feel so dumb I didn't figure that out sooner. Okay, I'm gonna ask my last question really quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the and Cross, both of you, the option to cancel this question and decline it. Okay. But the reason Cross invited me here is because I wrote a script called Lakshmi in Love that's a nickel quarterfinalist. And we've spent the last year wanting to share the script with Jim Carrey. And this is not my question is not if you will give him the script, but he did say that if an angel gave him a script written in gold that could be important to a lot of people, he would consider doing a movie.
Yeah.
So my advice is, what do we do with the script now? We have raised, we raised the first $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to our investors, the people who have done that. They know who they are. Now the second phase is $490,000.
Just 190, yeah.
And
right.
Everyone else that we've talked to has said, when you get to this, come back to us.
Right.
One equity firm and other people outside of the United States.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do I do that? And I've even talked to like some really prolific Bollywood actors that would make up part of the cast. Because we don't have all this agent stuff. They don't have that in India. So you could actually just get on the phone and talk to people.
Oh, interesting.
So what should we do? What should I do? I don't even, what do I do next?
Well, so this is the zinger that you hit me with at the end of that.
Yeah, but you can
How do I
decline
get
the
my
question.
movie?
You can decline the question.
Yeah.
You can decline the question. I've done everything but send it to his house because I know his address, but I know his house is up for sale too. I looked up his realtor too. I'm not. She's gone. We've lost her. We've lost her. No. We have to be respectful of your time. So you can ignore this question, but I will leave it at that.
Well, the good thing about the fact that we're at the end here is that I honestly don't know how to answer that, and I certainly don't know. Because I've never been in that as a writer. I've never been in that area of it. Like, I just do this one. It's like once again, it's kind of like I'm part of a process. I do the thing. I'm at the assembly line, and I just do the thing that I do, and the money and contacting the talent and all that stuff. It's never been. I've had. That's why I had. I was represented by creative artists actually for many years. That's why I have agents or had agents. I don't have them anymore. I had managers and all that stuff. And that's they do their job. Once I was done with my script, they do their job and they kick in and they get it to the people. So that's the.
Okay. I can work on that. I can work on that.
Other than you've got this great script, make sure it is once again, make sure it is the best business card it can possibly, a gleaming, glittering business card. It's in the best shape possible. There are no mistakes. It looks professional and everything like that. You've raised $10,000. That's a start, you know. Keep going with the money. Like you said, people will be attracted to it. I'm speaking out of the top of my head though, but I don't have a practical answer that I think would be helpful for you, only because that's not at all what I do, or hasn't been at all what I've been involved in all the time I've been doing it. But so I apologize for that. But
you don't know. Please don't
give up, and you know, and make sure that script just is, you know, have readings of it, and if it needs to be improved, improve it, and yeah. But
I'll find an agent. I'll find a really excellent, trustworthy, compassionate, empathetic agent with strong ethics and integrity. And maybe we can do it the other way that you talked about too.
Again, get the script. Like I said, get it into contests, screenwriting contests, because if it starts winning, that creates, you get a momentum. You know, It won this, it won that, it won that. I mean, it really starts with that script too, and being the best it can be, you know.
Okay.
And knows. I mean, it's not impossible. Who would have thought Dust to Dust would get in the hands of the number one? I mean, it's crazy. So crazy has already happened, you know.
Yeah.
That route has been cleared. So, you know.
Thank you. Thank you for that advice. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. What's the name of the script again? So I keep it in my head.
It's called Lakshmi, and it's on the blacklist. If anyone wants to read it, it's on the
good. Blacklist is an important place to put it. You know. Yeah. Absolutely.
I didn't know that until recently. Yeah. I'm learning. I'm learning.
And learn all you can. I mean, like I'm always like if I want to do that, I need to learn how to do it. And how do I learn how to do it? What I do is I take people who do it out to lunch and ask them and talk to them. Hi, can I take you to lunch? I really like to talk to you and learn more about what you do and how you got into it. I did that. I've done that. I did that. I just sort of changed my career. Once in 2018, I kind of left screenwriting and decided I wanted to work in themed entertainment. I wanted to be involved in making attractions. And for 1 year, I took everyone I could out to lunch and asked them over and over again and got advice. And that ended up creating connections, and that ended up getting me a first job. And it's such a simple, practical thing. Ask people who do what you want to do, how they did it. And how
you wanted to work in what entertainment?
Themed entertainment is like attractions for amusement parks, like rides and things like that. That's what.
Oh, so interesting.
Themed entertainment. That was the second thing I fantasized about when I was a kid. One was writing movies, and the other was being an Imagineer and making rides at Disneyland. When I was, because Disneyland,
like Harry Potter, like the theme park.
Yeah.
So do you do that now too?
I did one, and then COVID hit and kind of destroyed all the momentum I had. I spent a year meeting everybody, and I got on everyone's radar. And I actually worked on one attraction at an aquarium in Galveston, Texas. I had a blast doing it, and made a lot of friends in the business of themed entertainment. But then I just said, you know what? I think I'm going to retire. So
I'm so happy for you. That sounds awesome.
I got to do the two things I dreamed of, that doesn't happen a lot. I said at the beginning, I'm a really grateful person. I live in it with enormous gratitude that I got to do these things that I dreamed about. It was, and enjoyed them both immensely. Really lucky, and had some success.
Right.
A lot of success, huge amount of, like infinite success.
Well,
That's so cool.
Thank you very much. That's sweet.
Where do you like to have lunch in LA? When you took them out to lunch, where did you take them?
Well, it depends where they are. I mean, so they were all over the place. They were in Pasadena, and I'd say pick a place. I'd let them. It was all wherever you want to go, it's on me. And I wrote it off, and that was the. But I took everyone, and I actually, one of my dreams was to have a meeting at Imagineering at Disney. That was a lifelong dream, and I had it. I actually had it. That day was such an incredible day. I still have my badge from walking in there, because I'd written things for Disney, but I'd never been in that part of the company, which is down the street, from the studios. So.
Well, I would love to invite you to lunch whenever you come through Chicago, and Cross too.
I it's a deal. I'd love to meet you.
I'll see if my mom can make Indian food for us.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, I'll ask
that would be
her.
awesome. Yeah.
Love Indian food.
That'll be better than going to a restaurant.
It's a deal. It's done.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bennett, for being on the show, man. We've had a great time. I mean, getting to hear your journey, it's amazing, man. So again, I really appreciate you taking time out.
Thank you. I hope I offered some practical advice and maybe some little fun behind the scenes tidbits too.
Oh, absolutely.
I could be on for another 2 hours, but I can't. But yeah. Okay.
No, we it's time to conclude. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you both very much too.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.
you.
Take care.
All right, thank you guys for joining. Remember, guys, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Peace.